Hey, welcome back, knife nerds and everyday care people. It's your boy, the Big Canucker, and we have got ourselves the second in my ZT experience here, because these are the first couple of ZT knives that I've owned. A ZT 0450 carbon fiber, and of course a ZT 0462 titanium. And I gotta say, this, oh goodness, this 0452 I think is going to be a little bit of suffering from the fact that the 0562 is such a damn good knife, and anything that I put in my hand after that 0562 is going to suffer by comparison. And so I think if I had maybe reviewed this knife first, I might have liked it a little bit more. But after I put that 0562 in my pocket, this thing here, it's suffering because of it. And I think I better perhaps have a little bit of a, just let you know about that. Okay, some of the comparisons here before we go over the specifications. This would be a very similar knife here. Here we've got a Benchmade Osborne 940. It is a tiny bit bigger. Another knife here that I think would be kind of along the veins of this would be the Spyderco Ikuchi. And then, of course, another one which I think is really, really right in that ballpark is the Spyderco Positron. All right, so they're it's in that vein of a smaller, not 3.5, but not sub 3. I think the blade on this ZT is 3.25, and you're looking at all these except for perhaps the this Benchmade is just a little bit longer blade. I think at 3.46 inches. The rest of them here are in that sub 3.5, greater than 3 ballpark. And it is kind of a sweet spot for everyday carry, and more gentleman carry, I think, than everyday carry hard use knives for sure. That's what I think all three of these have in common, except for maybe the Osborne here is a little bit more of a hard use beast. A lot of people really like using and abusing these 940s. Where I like just the fact that it's a 940 and I have it in my collection. That's my main reason I like this. Now let's put this coochie coo back here a little bit and have a look straight at the ZT 0450 carbon fiber. Now this here is Dmitry Sinkovich designed. This original knife here came out probably about 9 years ago, I do believe. I remember seeing a video here about a gentleman by the name of Randy Johnson who doesn't make videos regularly anymore. I wish he would. He's got an absolutely tremendous delivery, and I learned so much about that guy. If you're looking at sharpening, especially sharpening with some Spyderco stones, check out Randy's earlier videos with the sharpening. And one of his sharpening efforts is on this Dmitry Sinkovich, the 0450 titanium version, and it just made me fall in love with his style of delivery as well as this knife. I always wanted to have one of these in my possession after seeing that video. So let's go over here real quick here. Now the blade length here, like I said, is 3.25 inches. It's rock welded at 60-62. Now it is a CPM S35VN. Now traditionally, I'm not saying traditionally, but early on in this knives, and this company's S35VN, they were really searching, I think, to find some proper heat treatment. If you have a look at some of Cedric and Ada's gear channel, Pete down in Australia, he does a cutting demonstration where he cuts half-inch twisted style rope, and he marks how many times before the blade will stop cutting paper, easily. And the ZT S35VN was not as great, to the point of about 100 strokes. You put the Spyderco S35VN in there, Kaiser's S35VN, and you're up around 270, 275 strokes, where the ZT was down around 177, 175. So it was almost 100 stroke below, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they really, really heat treated this very, very softly. Now it's nice to see that they're up 60-62. I think that will have solved a lot of that problem. I don't know what the specifications early on were on the internet, but I suspect they were probably in that 55 to 57 inch, and I think it makes that much of a difference with this S35VN. All right, so now what they have here on this particular version, it's got the black DLC coating, which they call DLC is diamond light coating. No, they call it a tungsten DLC coating. I I don't know how tough ZT's is, but I did cut some cardboard with this, and you could see some visible lines where I had cut the cardboard with it. It didn't have scraped right through, but had definitely left some lines in it, or have cut cardboard with Spyderco's DLC coating, and it's not been near as soft as that. So let's go. Blade thickness here is 1.21 inches or 3 millimeters. Now the closed length is 4.1 inches, and it is a flipper with a tungsten, I was going to say, a titanium frame lock. So, it's got some great fidget factor. No, the carbon fiber here is fantastic, but let's just see what else. So the handle thickness is 10.2 millimeters, so it's a little bit thinner in the pocket and in the hand. And your overall length is 7.4 inches, which is exactly the same thing as the titanium version. Now, where it actually gets a little bit better than the titanium version is around 2.7 ounces, or this is 2.45. This thing disappears in the pocket like nobody's business. So light that you just would not believe it. Oh my goodness, this thing is kind of... There we go. So, all right, so let's just kind of go over what my thought of these knives are. Okay, the first thing about this knife is it is definitely a gentleman's carry. It is 3.25 inches, so it is a little bit on the smaller side. If you're going to be doing some really heavy duty cutting, slicing, I think this will be all right, but you certainly don't want to take this and be cutting be cutting carpet with it all day, and pried open paint cans with this. I think this is more of a gentleman's carry. It does have some really good ZT build quality as far as is very centered well. It came from the factory quite sharp. I did have to strap it with some diamond stropping paste compound, which I think really brought out what the true sharpening ability of this knife, or of the sharpness of what this knife can be. I really think this carbon fiber is really excellent. I mean, this carbon fiber is absolutely gorgeous, and I really wish that you could kind of see this in person. It's not a carbon fiber in terms of carbon fiber like something like this Akuchi here, where it's a laminate carbon fiber, or with this one here, it's a really deep carbon fiber that you can tell that it's carbon all the way through, and it's got a really richness to it in overall look. Now, of course, it does have the lanyard hole, which is one of my absolute favorite things to have. But it is suffering from not having a ZT deep carry clip. Something like, I think it could have been a really nice thing if they would have put a deep carry clip on this right from factory. And I think it would have just added that much to the knife. Now, you've got some green standoffs, and I didn't notice that this had the green standoffs right away, so it's not really crazy flashy. It doesn't catch my eye a lot. I actually was really kind of looking over this knife, and I thought, oh geez, I didn't notice those green standoffs right off the bat. But if they're something that you like it. I mean, I could kind of I think it's a totally blacked out knife. I don't know why they decided to add just a little splash of green anodized color that's not really super noticeable. I mean, if you're going to do something like that and you really want to flash out, make the pivot screws green, or the rest of the body screws green. Something like that I think would really pop out a little bit more. I just don't know why they decide to do that. It's just a design thing that I'm like, well, why? Now, another thing that really bugged me about this knife, speaking of all the good things, the thing rockets out. Bam! It rockets out like crazy. It's got the KVT ball bearings in it, so it's very smooth. Rockets out really fast, unless you happen to have your fingers on this lock bar in any sort of pressure whatsoever, and then it ends up hurting your finger. I mean, this flipper tab here has got some little bit of sharp jimping on it, and if you're going to be opening this and closing this a whole bunch of times, you're eventually going to get yourself a little bit of a burned finger, I call it, where it feels like your finger's burning a little bit. And now, especially if you happen to just touch onto that lock bar, I'm pressing on there, and I'm hardly even pressing on this, but it just will not come out. And a couple of times I hurt my finger. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I'm like, what the frick? And then I move, this. And then as soon as I move my finger out of the way, the thing comes right out. But the damage had been done already. It kind of cheesed me off a few times already, and it left some marks inside my fingers. So that's a real big thing. And it could be the fact that I've got double XL hands, and this is a little bit of a smaller knife on the whole. I mean, you can see that, you know, the width of this knife is very close to the width of my palm. And I think when you're starting to look at the thinness of the knife too as well, there's not that much space to grab. You got to kind of put your fingers on the ZT clip rather than the lock bar. Otherwise, you're not coming out whatsoever. Now, hardware, you know, it's fine. It's got some T8. It does have some really, really small ones here. T6 here on the clip. But I haven't really taken this apart. There's really no need to it. It's just really, really an excellent little, well put together knife that just happens to, I think, suffer a little bit from showing up in the same thing as this ZT-0462 or 0562. This here knife is, man, this knife is an 11, and this knife here is an 8. Which, when you compare this one against the ZT-0562, it turns this into about a 6, and that's wrong, because this knife right off, it's, you know, just by itself is a great little gentleman's folder, but it just suffers from the fact that it came in the same. I carried it right after I carried the 0562, so I'm probably not as high on it as I think of a lot of reviewers out there, and simply because of that fact. Now, as far as, like, you know, overall general hotspots on here, I never really noticed any other than this clip, or, you know, then the end of the clip here and the flipper tab. But I mean, the overall fit and finish of this knife is excellent. You know, it's fairly comfortable in the hand. It came fairly sharp. It's, you know, it's just a really, really good knife. I just had the unfortunate. It was just unfortunate to be coupled with a really, really great knife when I'm doing reviews back to back. So I'm going to give this probably an 8 out of 10. I'm just going to suffer from a little bit of the fact that it's just a tiny bit too small. It's got that little bit of a rough, not rough, just the jimping on here is just something that's a little uncomfortable. And when your fingers hit that lock bar, it really messes with the detent quite a bit. So would I pick this knife up? I think absolutely. You know, when you're looking at it as far as like retail in the States, you're looking at about $228. You know, it's a pretty penny, but it's still top material and top design, and from a top designer too as well, Dmitry Sinkovich. Here in Canada, a little bit more expensive. It's $342 through House of Knives. I think you can get it elsewhere for around $320 or so, but still, you know, it's a pretty penny for a very, very good knife and from a very, very good company. And I think that it is something that I would definitely, I think, put inside my pocket. But will it stay here in my collection? That's yet to be seen. All right, please stay safe out there. Please keep your stick on the ice, the shiny side up. This is the Big Canucker saying adios.